I've made a lot of mistakes in leadership, which is why I have a lot of lessons learned, making success easy for the people that you're leading, for sure. You have to get people bought in to the why behind doing a certain thing.
Share the why, then use questions versus statements.
Yeah. As a leader, you need to know what your people need.
Con men are so influential and they can trick people is because they appear to have confidence.
Welcome to the Takeover with Tim and Cindy, where we show you how to dominate every area of life and business. Let's get winning.
Welcome back to the Takeover with Tim and Cindy. Today we're going to go over the 7 keys to take your leadership to the next level. But before we do that, let's even talk about why getting good at leadership is even important. So I want you to think about, let's just say you have a certain skill that you do in a job where you're producing an outcome, and say you're a coder and you get, you go through training and programs and courses to get better and better and better at coding. There becomes a point of diminishing returns where you might spend the next 6 months getting training on a new coding project and only produce like a 5% better outcome. And as an individual contributor, there becomes a point where no matter how much training and you put into your role, the outcome and the returns become very, very small because there becomes a point of diminishing returns.
Because you only put in so much time, right?
You can only trade so much time for outcome. Mm-hmm. Now, what's beautiful about leadership is for the better you get at leadership, it actually becomes exponential as you grow as a leader. And let's be clear, this isn't just if you're a leader at work. This is leadership, period. There is always going to be a situation where every single person is a leader or has an opportunity to be a leader. And so we're going to explain how to be a leader on a high level, how to be able to do this with massive teams and build massive culture, as well as just how to do this in smaller environments. I mean, the lessons learned are the same, because imagine this. That same individual contributor trading time for output, now as you get 1% better and 2% better at being a leader, that could actually be, let's say there's 20 people underneath you, your 1% better could be a 20% increase, because you have 20 people that you're now be able to produce more and more with and through. So that's why I'm really excited about today. Cindy is absolutely brilliant when it comes to leadership. I mean, I've seen you just obsess over this thing called leadership, and you've always been a leader ever since. I mean, I hear your stories of you being 13 and leading groups and doing speeches. So I've seen you on the backside, the level of leadership you're able to have as a COO of Pima, and it blows my mind. So the wisdom that you're going to drop today, I want everybody to pay really special attention to, because this is not generic regurgitated leadership. This is literally practical stuff that works. It works incredibly well from just one of the most brilliant leaders that I personally know. So
I appreciate that.
We're gonna go over the 7 steps. So let's go ahead. I'll pass it off to you. What is the?
I want to preface before we go into the steps that I've made a lot of mistakes in leadership, which is why I have a lot of lessons learned. And the keys we're going to share today, the 7 keys, have been tried and tested through failure and challenges, which is why I'm so confident in these 7 things that we're going to speak about today. So as Tim mentioned, it's not just fluff, it's experience for sure, but a lot of challenges. I think any leader can attest to the fact that leadership is challenging. Yep. Being responsible for other people, being responsible for their outcomes, their dreams, their goals, their desires, it's a weight and it's responsibility. And as you mentioned, it's night and day, being able to be an effective leader that can motivate, inspire, and move people toward a certain outcome to just an average leader. And people want to follow leaders that are really good. And so it is in your best interest as a business owner to be a great leader. It's in your best interest as an employee. Maybe you're a manager or a director. Maybe you have aspirations to be a leader one day. These 7 things we're going to share today are going to be fundamental in ensuring your success as a leader. And they're very easy to apply as well. We wanted to keep it very simple. So Let's dive in.
Can I ask one question before we dive in?
Yes.
What is the difference between, and I've heard a lot of people say a lot of different things on this, but what do you see the difference between a quote unquote manager versus a leader is?
The way I look at it is management is being head over systems and processes, right? So a manager makes sure that people are ticking the boxes. They're following the processes, they're following the procedures, they're getting their tasks done, they're hitting their KPIs. Whereas leadership, I see it more aspirational. It's more so people development. It's coaching and moving people as individuals to a certain outcome or to a certain vision that we're working towards, right? So leadership is the development of people. It's getting people excited about something. It's moving people towards a certain vision, whereas management is more so on the processes and systems, making sure that people are hitting their KPIs. And there is benefits to being both a good manager and a good leader. I think for a while, I was a very good manager. I know how to get people to follow processes, follow systems, and execute. But the leadership, the people development side took a lot of work to build up. And they're synonymous. Like, you need both to lead and run effectively, because somebody could be a really good manager. They could be great at like getting people to just tick boxes and make sure that things are getting executed. But do your people get excited about showing up for work? Are they hitting their personal, professional, financial goals, right? Or do they get excited about moving towards a common vision? That's night and day from being just a good manager to being both a good manager and a good leader.
So the superpower would be to have both of them.
Have both. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Love that. So let's go ahead and jump in. I know you and I always talk about like when I'm talking, it's very a little bit more go with the flow. Yours is very, okay, so the 7 steps to this. So I'm really looking forward to, because I know it's going to give a lot of value to people today, going through very specifics, actionable. So if you're listening to this today, if you're watching this today, make sure to take note on this. Write these down, because we want to make sure that you walk away from today with actionable items that you can do to be a better leader. So let's go ahead and jump into number 1. What's the first of 7 keys to great leadership?
Yes. Leaders make success easy for the people they lead. So it is your job as a leader to make success easy. What does that mean? It's removing bottlenecks to people's success, right? So a bottleneck is something that's going to stand in the way of the people that you are leading reaching a certain outcome. So if I can remove the friction or remove the bottleneck, it's going to make it seamless for people to move through and achieve the goal. So I like to think about it in leadership. It's asking yourself, like, what are the bottlenecks? What are the things that are keeping my people from reaching a certain goal or reaching a certain outcome? And as the leader, it's my responsibility to ensure that those bottlenecks are removed so that people can hit their goals, hit their KPIs effortlessly. Because it's one thing for people to strive to reach a certain outcome, and it's difficult and you're motivating. But as a leader, your job is to make success easy. It's to ensure that the people under you can effectively complete their jobs, do their roles in a way that's easy and effortless for them. And so as a leader, oftentimes you do have to carry that weight and responsibility so that people under you can move through their goals easily.
And is that like you create systems, processes, tasks? Hey, if you do these systems, processes, tasks in this way, you can produce X outcome? Or what does that look like, practically speaking, to make it easy to be successful in a role?
Yeah, I think it is. On the one hand, we talk about the management side of it. It's making sure that there are procedures, systems, and things in place. But I think also on the other side, it's the constant asking of the question, like, what's the bottleneck? And getting the people under you to ask the question, what's the bottleneck? Right? Because the more that we can find what the bottlenecks are to our success, we can easily move towards it. So I think it's just that mindset of there's always opportunity to remove bottlenecks in the way that we do things to make success easier for the people that we lead, right? So for example, one of the things that came up with us and our team was like, hey, we just think we're having too many meetings. It's like we have certain goals that we want to hit, certain clients that we have to serve, right? And with efficiency. And so I asked the team, okay, like, what's the bottleneck? How can we be more efficient in the way that we're doing things? And the team came up with, hey, like, why don't we just reduce the number of meetings or decrease the time of the meetings? Okay, cool. So let's test that. If the bottleneck is the meetings or the time it takes to run a meeting, let's break it down from an hour to 30 minutes. In 30 minutes, can we still get the same amount, if not more, done and be more efficient? So we tested it and we were able to. And so it's like constant asking of like, what can we do to eliminate or alleviate bottlenecks to make success easy for the people that I lead?
Gotcha. So it's both a structural, procedural thing, as well as just a mindset.
Yes.
To constantly have as a leader, like where are the bottlenecks? And what I love about what you said there is a great leader also doesn't just say, here, do this. The great leader is getting the collective brain of the team involved. And so you're going, where you ask the team, where are our bottlenecks? They brought you ideas, hey, these things, and then we implemented a test. So I love like that, because that's a good leader versus a manager, where a manager might say, hey, do this thing. A leader's going to go, hey, where are our bottlenecks, team? They all bring some ideas, and then you make that decision. Hey, let's cut this out. Let's do it. Let's test it. So I love that mindset. So I think one thing about like making it easy to win, there's in the realm of sales and sales teams, there's so many, whether this is a small business or a large, massive business with VP of sales and all that stuff, there's always so much pressure of outcome put on the sales team, sales reps, with very little, here's how to be successful. And so it's like whether you're a small business owner, you're trying to look to hire a sales rep to bring in revenue and growth, you have to make it a clear path of what it looks like to win as a sales rep, So here's the exact script that's proven to work and close. Here's the tonality in which to use it. Here's the way to bridge between questions. Like, you have to have so much clarity, because sales is the most difficult part of a company. How do you influence people to open up their wallets and give you money? It's also the most important part of the company. So I think that one thing I'm constantly obsessing on, not just for ourselves, but we do training for our clients and train their sales teams as well, is like, how do you make easier? What's the shortest path? I'm constantly obsessing of what's the shortest path to get somebody to a high performing salesperson. And it's constantly systems, processes, reviews, and too many companies, they throw salespeople at a problem, which is, hey, we need more sales. So they throw more salespeople at that, but they don't give clear, here's what it looks like to win and to sell. So like, I was willing to go into the trenches and sell on this product until I had dialed in a really good sales script. And then now I give those recordings, that processes over to people. I can call review, I can train them, I can work with teams, where now we're able to create a very systemized approach. So much, in fact, that we can have 7 points. We're coaching a client on variants of products. If they hit these 7 points, they're going to have a high likelihood to close the deal. So now we have a systemized approach that makes it easy for clients, for our teams to know what it looks like to win in that role. And so I think that's one part that gets neglected a lot in sales leadership, as well as people just don't make it look, here's what it looks like to win in your role. They say, here's what it looks like to win in your role. You make more money. But they're like, so how you do that, we don't care. And giving a very clear directive, giving a why behind it, giving a mission behind it, giving all that support behind it is super important in sales as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's making success easy for the people that you're leading, for sure.
So number 1, make success easy. What is number 2?
Leadership is influence. It's your ability to move people towards a common goal and a common vision, right? And the more that you can work on your influence and your level of influence, the better leader you're going to become. I like to think of influence as getting people like bought into something. Okay, so say for example, we have a new idea that we want to put forth in the business. I need to get people bought in to why that idea is a good idea and why it's going to help them in their roles, but also why it's going to help the business. It's not just enough for me to tell people what to do, right?
Yep.
It's like, do this. That's not the best way to lead people. You have to get people bought in to the why behind doing a certain thing. Okay. So for example, with my team, I might say like, hey, we have this new initiative that we want to think of. Like, here's why we need this to work, right? Or get them through questions to say why they think it's important versus telling them what it is. And the more that I can get people bought in to an idea or a goal or something, they actually take more ownership of it.
Yep.
And the more that you can get people to take ownership and buy into a certain outcome, you're actually raising your level of influence as well. So a key part in influence is getting people to understand the why behind doing certain things, because that's naturally going to move them towards it versus you telling people to do it, which I see a lot of leaders do, right? Some leaders will just tell people like, take the certain step or just do this. But that's not influence. Influence is getting people themselves to move to a certain outcome or to come to a certain conclusion.
So one of the most effective ways to do this, to create influence, Cindy, once you have the why established, is to use questions versus statements. So when you're giving the directive, here's what most uneducated leaders do. Go do this thing. They don't give a why. They just give a, because we need, if you're lucky, you get a because we need to grow ourselves, right? But like, let's say we're doing a new cold email initiative where we got to double that, the outbound. I'm going to go, hey, we're going to be doubling our outbound so that we can have this for the sales team so that we can grow the company and boom, sell vision. Then now I can ask the person, why do you think that's important? I just gave the why. Now I'm going to ask, why do you think that's important? Now this person's going to tell me why they think it's important. Well, I think it's important because this, and then profitability. And if we can have that, that's going to help this team. Yes, I 100% agree. 100% agree. So now, because they made the statement, they're going to take ownership over that thing versus me making the statement. So always share the why.
Yeah.
And then use a question versus a statement to get them to bought into the new vision or the new strategy or the new directive.
Yes, absolutely. So we're talking about influence, right? And how you create influence and how you actually influence others as a leader is get them bought in to the why behind it, why it's an important idea. And then I think the third part of that is giving people autonomy as to how they do it, right? So if we have this big vision or we have an idea, we already know the why behind it. We've gotten people bought in to the reason why it's important. Now it's time to give people autonomy how they execute. So if I go in, right, that opposite example, if we go in with a directive of that's exactly what we need to do, just go out and do it, X, Y, Z, and we're telling them the how to do it, also people are less bought in to doing it. But if you give people autonomy, you give them free reins on the how, as long as they get the outcome that we're looking for, they're also very bought in to getting that done. So that's another mechanism you can use for influence is letting people, you tell them what the outcome is, you tell them what the result is that you want to get, and you give them autonomy as to how they get to that outcome.
Curious on that, like what's the difference between giving people autonomy and keeping people accountable versus, I think a lot of times when people hear autonomy, they think abdication. Well, you figure out how to do it and then I'll leave it up to you. Just to be clear, like how do you give autonomy without it being like abdication?
So delegation is if I want to take something off of my plate, I am going to say, give it to my admin assistant and I'm going to tell her exactly how to do it. And then I'm going to check in with her to make sure if she has any questions or if she's unclear about how to do it. I'm going to make sure that she has the support that she needs, and I'm going to do regular check-ins. Versus abdicate, which is the same example. I have this thing that I need my admin assistant to do. I just hand it over to her, but I don't really tell her how to do it, and I don't hold her accountable. She just kind of just takes it over. And then if I look back,
you never check in on her.
You don't really check in. Exactly. That's abdication. So how do you give somebody autonomy without abdicating is making sure that you're doing regular check-ins, right? So you've given the person the task, but you have to check in to make sure that, number one, it's getting done. Everybody performs better with accountability. But then also asking them where they need help and where they need support. Because abdication is not checking in at all. It's having them do it on their own without support. And so the opposite of that is making sure that even though you're giving autonomy, that you are there as the leader to offer support where people need support, right?
Wow.
And that you are making it very clear that you are there for support. Because if you don't mention that, hey, reach out to me anytime you need help, or make sure you touch base with me when you need support, your direct reports or the people that you lead don't know that you are there for support. So you have to communicate that so that you steer away from abdication and you're truly giving them autonomy as a really good leader.
Wow. This is powerful. So number one, influence is really created by giving the why, using questions versus statements, and then giving autonomy, which is giving them freedom, but keeping them accountable and giving them support. Very, very powerful for key number two. What's key number 3?
That segues really nicely into number 3, because we spoke about accountability and support. The third key is to know as a leader how much or how little support your people need. There are times when maybe you bring somebody new on, and at the time, maybe they need more support from you in that area. So for example, we hired client success managers, and we had about 3 of them go through the process. Right? For one person, they grasp the information really easily. We would touch base every day for like a daily coaching. And they had very little questions because they were grasping the information really well. And then we had another client success manager go through the same onboarding and training process, but they did have more questions. And the period of support where I would do kind of one-on-one touch bases for this client success manager was a little bit longer than the initial one. Okay. That doesn't mean that one is better than the other. It doesn't mean that one person is more competent than another. It was the ability as a leader to discern how much or how little support the person needed, right? To get up to speed or to perform well in their role. And I think it's important to know that people are going to need different levels of support, different touch bases. And the more that you can understand how your people receive support, how they like to be coached, what kind of feedback that they want, you're better able to coach and support your people.
I love that. So because I mean, I think sometimes there's comparison bias.
Yes.
Right, where we see, which can be good, to be able to see if you have hiring 2 or 3 people for the same role at the same time, you can see like the performance metrics. But there's one thing that's performance metrics, and then there's another thing that is like some people are going to need more, some people are going to need longer, and it's not better or worse because
Yes.
on the other side, and knowing what we know now, it wasn't an indicator of one person being better than the other.
Correct.
But during the period of time, it's important to know that there is going to be different variances needed, and to be able to understand and just say that that's okay in leadership. Now, long term, when you think about that, I know there's some leaders that are very big on, hey, for every 1 hour I put into the leader below me, I want to make sure they're able to produce like 40 hours, right? So there's people that get once somebody's in a role and really dialed in, that's also something to be keenly aware of how much outcome can I get for 1 hour of my leadership per person. Onboarding, getting somebody up to speed, that's a different situation. So also understanding, in during an onboarding process versus an ongoing process, those are, be willing to invest more in people up front.
Yeah, I think even ongoing, 'cause I'll say this. So support accountability doesn't necessarily have to look like a 1 hour meeting with the person. That's taking up your time, right? Support and accountability coaching can also look like, hey, this person does really well when I motivate them or I just check in on them. So that could be a simple message in Slack. Hey, is everything good? What do you need from me? And that I could do that, say, maybe once a week on a Friday, because I know that this person, the way that they perform and as they are as an individual, they do better with this sort of accountability. I can give that to them. Whereas maybe another person in that same role doesn't need that, and they're good with our bi-weekly one-on-one, and that's all they need. But as a leader, it's your ability to discern what your people need and knowing that every person's going to be different.
Wow.
And if I compare one person to another in terms of the level of support, accountability, touch base that they need versus based on the outcome or the results that they're delivering, I might pass on a really good employee or teammate, somebody under me, because I'm differentiating that based on the level of support that they need from me. So I think it's understanding, as a leader, you need to know what your people need. And understand that there's different people, you're going to lead all sorts of different people, and they're all going to have different challenges, different needs, and your ability as a leader to cater to that is super, super important.
Wow.
And it's something that I didn't do, right, before. Before it was like, okay, this person's demanding too much of my time. I feel like it's a waste, or I wanted to coach people the same way all the time, but that's not good leadership, right? Good leadership is being able to bend and to mold so that you can get the best output from that person. I look at you and your leadership. I know that there's some people that you lead that need more like motivation, like you've got this, like encouragement and motivation. There's other people that want you to like
Bring
put the hammer down. Exactly, right? And so it's your ability as a leader to discern what your people need.
Because the hammer is gonna destroy one person's confidence, whereas they're gonna need that you got this, I believe in you, and the other person, if I say you got this, I believe in you, that's actually gonna make them lazy.
It's like a disservice to them.
And they need So I love that. So one thing I think is really important, just hearing this, is how important it is for good leaders. If you have a teammate that you're not getting the outcome from, or they're frustrating because they're learning slower, I think step one is, I know it's one of the values at Pima, is taking extreme ownership. And I think that's asking the question, if somebody is developing slow, if they are demanding times, or they're not producing as much as you want, step one is ask yourself, where have I been deficient as a leader? And how could I support this person better, and to step in? And I think, I've seen you do that a lot, ask that question a lot of like, how can I better support where? And sometimes at the end of the day, it's the wrong person for the role. But sometimes you find out over time, like, oh, it was my leadership that was keeping this person back from their full potential. So how can you know what to give to different people? Because that can seem over, like, if people watching this, there might be some people that are like, I have no idea. Like, I don't have a crystal ball. Like, what's an easy way to do that?
Absolutely. This question has transformed how I lead. So in the initial one-on-one that I have with a teammate, the question that I'm going to ask them is, how can I best support you? How do you like to be coached? How do you like to be supported? How do you like to be led? Because the answer that you're going to get out of that, right? So like, how do you like to be coached? Some people, it's going to be, I like just very candid type of feedback. Don't sugarcoat, just tell me as it is. Give me regular feedback. And for others, it might be like, hey, like I like to be motivated. I like to be encouraged. I like to know what I'm doing well. And so it's your ability to, even in that moment, just take a few moments to ask the people that you're leading, how do you like to be led? How do you like to be coached? It's going to allow you as a leader to best adapt your leadership style to that person. And it's not necessarily being inauthentic to who you are as a leader, but we know in leadership, your ability to produce the best outcome in that person is a good sign of leadership. So if I can coach them in the way that they best receive coaching, if I can give them feedback and support them in the way that they best receive, I know on the other side, I'm going to get the best output from that person. And it's going to differ depending on the person. And as a leader, it's your responsibility to know. I know every one of my direct reports, how they like to receive feedback, how they like to be supported, how they like to be coached, so that I can, as a leader, best support them.
Gotcha. So you didn't have a crystal ball to do this.
I didn't have a crystal ball. I don't want to sound cool, but I didn't.
Great.
I just asked a question.
Great leaders ask great questions.
Absolutely.
So sometimes it's just as simple as, how do you like to receive feedback?
Yes.
And then you probably learn nuances over time, but at the end of the day, just ask.
For sure. And then also just time spent, I think also, right? It's the more that I do one-on-ones, I'm spending time with my team. I can also start to develop those nuances and identify ways that they like to receive. So number 3 was just recognizing how much or how little support your team needs, recognizing that different people require different types of support in coaching. So as a leader, you have to know what that is.
Awesome. Well, so what's key number 4?
Number 4 is people do not follow leaders that are weaker than them.
Facts. Facts.
It's a harsh reality, but it's true, right? People will not follow a leader that is less confident than them, that is less competent than them. And so there's in so many arenas, as a leader, it is your responsibility to be the most confident, the most competent. It doesn't mean that you have to be the best at every single role, but having the confidence and the ability to lead people in the different areas of your business or in the area that you are leading is critical. Because we've noticed it. People will not follow a leader that's weaker than them. They'll walk over you, or rather go under a leader that is stronger, more confident, etc.
Yeah, I mean, it's influence. I mean, this is just the way humans work, right? You have people that are alphas, meaning they are the leaders. They walk in the room, they're the clear leader. Everybody they're attracted, they're magnetized to them. You have just the peers, people that are on the same level. They're not below you, they're not above you. Or you have like the people that are like what would be called a beta, like a follower. And this is not something we made up. This is the way humans work, and every single one of us automatically walks into every single social situation there is and automatically on autopilot determines whether somebody is above, equal to, or below them. And so it's super important that you become, or as you know, when we do sales training, I call it the boss, the buddy, or the beggar. Like you're either the boss in the situation, meaning it's clear that you're running it, not because of your title, because of your influence, because of your tonality, your personality, your confidence. And these are all trainable things we're going to go into. The buddy is just like, hey, we're friends, we're eating tacos, we're drinking beer together. And the beggar is they're seeking your approval, right? And so what does that look like as a leader? How do you because sometimes we have some incredibly smart, competent, brilliant people that are on our team. Like we have entrepreneurs that are on our team that built multi-million-dollar companies. So how do you, what are the skills behind creating alpha or boss or leadership that people, even high-level people, especially high-level people, want to actually follow?
Love that question. I think it boils down to confidence. Confidence in yourself, in your ability. It's confidence in the vision that you've set, right? And this may be in a business, the vision that we have for the business. So if I'm, say, the leader of a department, it's that vision that I have for how I want this department to be run. Am I confident in that? Because if I'm, kind of confident, not really sure, uncertain, people are not going to follow that. I think influence can also be boiled down to how confident are you in what you want people to do, or in the calling, or in the vision. And the more confident you are, people can smell confidence from a mile away. Your people can smell whether you are confident or whether you are not confident.
Yep.
So when I step into a meeting and I know we have to solve a certain problem, am I coming in with that confidence and execution, like I know we're going to get it done? Or is it that uncertainty, kind of shy, unsure? Because if you are unsure and there's an ounce of uncertainty, people are going to walk all over you, and they see you as that beta or as the person that's not leading. And so I think leadership is confidence. And the way that you show that is through the way you show up, the way you communicate, the way you ask things of people, right? And then I think too, it's, are you competent in, if not the general understanding of what it is that you're doing, competent in a certain arena, right? Like, for example, I may not be, and I am not the best at, say, marketing technology. It's not my area of expertise, but because I'm competent enough to understand how certain marketing tech works, I can lead the team, right? I know the vision. I know overall what I needed to do. I know the outcomes and the KPIs that I'm tracking. So I know how to lead the people in that arena, right?
Even though you don't know the tech.
Correct.
Like we have marketing techs, full-time marketing techs. You don't know the nuances of the role like they do, but you know enough to hold them accountable and to give directive. Okay.
Absolutely. 100%. I
think one thing that we talk a lot about in sales, because this is true of sales, if somebody comes on the call and you're trying to sell them, if you are not the clear situational leader, meaning you are not the clear leader in your area of expertise, and they are the leader on the call, you're not going to lead them to the close. Because I said, if you can't lead them on the call, you can't lead them to the close. So you have to create situational leadership. Even if somebody has more money, more status, more anything than you can always create situational leadership. It's the example of, hey, if there's like an orthopedic surgeon, and then there's just like a golf trainer, and then they're in the same room, right? Who has more social status, like at a dinner party?
Probably the surgeon. The
surgeon, right? Because he's probably got more money, he's got more status, he's a surgeon. But situational leadership is going to be when you're on a golf course and the golf instructor is teaching the orthopedic surgeon, who has more situational leadership?
The golf instructor.
The golf instructor, right? So if you are in a situation where you're on a sales call, you have to have situational leadership. So that's one thing you have to have. Now, what are some simple techniques that we use to do this? And this is going to be very important for creating leadership, is your tonality has to end on downward. You see, I can talk, I can go up, I can go all over the place when I'm making points, but when I'm ending my sentence, it always ends on the downward inflection. versus, because that shows confidence and certainty, and people want to follow certainty. People want to follow confidence. This is why con men, which means confidence men, con men are so influential and they can trick people, is because they appear to have confidence. They have so much confidence. Con man means confidence man. So your ability to have confidence create influence. Hopefully you're using it for good, but your certainty and confidence is going to come from the way you're saying things with confidence, but just a simple tonality is to end on a downward inflection, like I did here. Now, if I come in and I'm like, hey guys, it's good to see you today. And I'm going upwards and I'm like, well, I think we're going to do it. Like if I sound like I'm asking a question at the end of everything, like upward inflection, it shows in uncertainty. So make sure as a leader, watch some of your calls. Are you mostly being confident ending downward, or you seem scared and uncertain? And I don't know, what do you guys think we should do? Like going up, up, up. If you find yourself going up, it's like you're asking a question mark at the end.
Seeking approval.
And you're seeking approval. It's like you're asking question, like I'm not sure, and you're going up. It's like you're looking for the others to validate or to respond to your question versus this is the way it is. So a very simple way to do that is make sure that you're doing your ending kind of your main points on a downward inflection.
I love that. Very, very easy key to implement, but so powerful.
Yeah. So that's number 4. What is number 5?
Yes, people have to trust you. Your people have to know that you have their best interests at heart. And I also know that the best way to build trust is by having proven success. As a leader, you build more and more trust as, for example, you give a directive, people follow it, and they get a certain success or a certain outcome result, and it's a good, positive one. People are going to trust you more because they know, hey, Cindy said this, we took action, we got the outcome, we trust her. And you continue to do that in a cycle, and it actually builds the level of trust that your team has in you. Without trust, you don't have a solid team, right? And it's your role as a leader to make sure that your team is cohesive. And you do that by building trust. So again, trust is directly linked to proven success. How can we spoke about making success easy for the people that you lead, but also as you give direction, as you tell people to execute on a certain thing and they get the result or the outcome, it's also going to boost the level of trust they have in you as a leader.
What's cool about this is anytime you find a rule or a kind of a law of nature or human influence, is there's also a reverse truth to this. Because if I'm going, hey guys, we're going to do this, and let's do it, and we put the action and I give the directive and the outcome happens, or I give the coaching or we make the adjustment and it works, there's trust built. But if I have a history of giving directive, giving ideas and it failing, and giving directives and giving ideas and failing, that trust and that confidence is like, dude, we've been down this road before, it didn't work last 2 times.
Yes, you actually lose trust.
So you're, as a leader, you have a big horsepower engine, but it can go in forward gear, or it can go in reverse gear, can it?
Yes, absolutely. So I think it's knowing as a leader, every decision that you make is either going to build trust with your team or take away trust from your team, and you have that power, right? And so it's important to know every decision holds massive weight. It's not just another day, just another decision. Is this decision that I make going to allow people to trust me more, which is what you want? Your people have to trust you in order to be a good leader. And then on the back end, it's, will that decision that I make let people lose trust in me, which is not the area that you want to be in as a leader. Your people have to trust you.
It's a lot of pressure as a leader.
It is. It is. A lot of pressure, a lot of responsibility.
You know, what's so fun is the better and better you get at leadership. It's like, when you start to see the fruits of being a good leader, it's very rewarding, isn't it?
It is.
Because like we were talking about before, leadership is about mentoring. It's about developing people. So it's really cool when you start to be getting good at building trust, because you see your team getting the outcome positively. So it's very rewarding, and it's worth the work. And to be clear, Cindy said earlier, you said earlier in this show that you made a lot of mistakes. So like, let's just be really clear. No one is ever going to do leadership perfect. It is going to be something you are continually getting better at in the rest of your entire life. So if you can walk away from this, and we still have more points to cover, but if you can walk away from this episode and just be a 1% better leader, and then maybe come to this episode again next week and listen again, or tomorrow, and become 1% better, that's what you want to look for in leadership, is constantly up leveling and growing, because leadership becomes more and more and more exponential the better and better you get at it, but you will never be perfect at it.
No, not at
people.
all. For sure. People are complicated. It is not easy being a leader by any means. I think about it in the area of trust. The more trust your team has in you as a leader, the stronger your team becomes, right? You start to look at your team as, we can get through challenges and difficult things because there's this trust, solid foundation built among the team. If there's no trust, you're kind of very shaky and rocky, and some people trust in you and believe in you, some people don't. The team's kind of all over the place. But as a leader, the trust that they have in you actually brings cohesion and strength in the team. And so that's something that you want to be mindful of, is, does my team trust me? Do they trust the decisions that I make? Do they trust in the directives that I give? Because again, it can be exponential in both positive and negative.
I love that. So I know when we were talking earlier, we said this would probably be about a 25 minute show. I'm like, Cindy talking on leadership is going to go, like, we could talk hours and hours on this. We do have 2 more points. So let's go ahead and jump to the last 2 points. What's the 6th and 7th key to leadership?
Okay, number 6 is, your people have to know you truly care. And this is not just I say I care because I'm the leader, but you actually have to genuinely care about the people that are under you, the people that you're entrusted with, right? We do this very practically through what we call PPF goals. So it's personal, professional, and financial goals. We know the goals of every member on our team. As a manager, as a leader, everybody has their direct reports. They know what the personal, professional, and financial goals are of everybody that they lead, right? This is all of our leaders on the team. And this generally shows that you care about people. You're interested in their goals. You're interested in their aspirations, right? You're interested in where they want to go professionally. And you're linking the goals of the company with your team's personal, professional, and financial goals. This links very closely to influence, right? The easiest way to influence people is to link their goals to the goals of the company, right? If we hit a certain metric in the company, that's going to allow you in your personal life to move forward as well. And so we noticed the difference in our leadership, the difference in the way that our team was bought into the mission and what we were doing at Pima, when we started to care about them as individuals, care about their families, care about their interests, care about what they do on the weekends. And we've embedded this as a culture in our company, and we've seen the exponential results by tying those small things into how we do business and operate at Pima.
Oh my gosh. And I love this, because I think practically, I just want to get super practical of how to do this, because I've always cared about the people on my team. And so there might be a lot of people listening, like, I do care. I care so deeply. But there's a difference between caring and genuinely caring, and then practically caring. So they feel like you care for them. Good. So some very practical applications. And I'm telling you, when we implemented some of these techniques, we're talking about, we saw results in our key performance indicators and some of the metrics in our company, like in a matter of a couple weeks.
Yes.
So here's a couple practicals on that. So if you know what their personal goals are, their professional goals are, and their financial, their PPFs, like our vision at Pima is to be a vehicle for all of our teammates to hit their personal, professional, financial. If you know what those goals are, maybe meet with them once or twice a month. Now you can attach that to the actual role. Okay, so if you hit X outcome in your role, it gets you, Y bonus, so you can get, Z goal that you have for your personal. So it's like, here's the activity you have to do. If you do this activity, you'll get this outcome. If you get this outcome, you get a bonus, which will help you achieve your personal or your professional or your financial goal. So we attach it that way. And this might seem like, how do I do that? It takes time. Be willing to just figure out how you can attach it into the role. So that is you genuinely, practically caring about their personal, professional, and financial goals. Because it's one thing to say you care, and to really care. It's another thing to build a process and a system that actually attaches what they're doing in their role with their actual lives.
Yes, yes. Another practical, I love that. Another practical I would say is thinking about an example with one of our teammates. So we have bi-weekly one-on-ones with every member of our team, and every manager or leader has the one-on-ones with their direct reports. And so I had a one-on-one with one of our leaders the other day, and we have an agenda for every meeting. So we have an agenda for our one-on-ones. In our one-on-ones, the team leads. So I don't do much talking. I ask questions and I let them tell me what their KPIs are and the different things that we discuss. And in this session, I could tell that something was a little bit off with one of our leaders. And so I just put the agenda aside. I told her, let's just chat. What's going on? And I was genuinely curious as to what was going on with her. And we spent the whole 30 minutes just chatting without an agenda, without worrying about all the different KPIs we needed to run through. And I think that's just a very practical example too of just genuinely caring about your people. And that builds trust, right? And it builds accountability. It builds them being bought into you as a leader when you can genuinely care. Because a few months down the line, again, she's 100% bought in. She's doing better in the role. She trusts me as a leader because I was willing to spend 30 minutes with her just listening, putting the agenda aside, being a good listener, asking questions, and generally being there for my people. And I think that's so important as a leader. Is sometimes there is an agenda and sometimes you have to put your agenda aside to make sure that you are truly being there as a coach, as a mentor, as an accountability buddy for the people that you lead.
And I think what I heard there too is just listening.
Yes.
I think as leaders, sometimes we feel the need to constantly give. But a lot of times these one-on-one mentoring meetings are actually more about listening.
Yes.
Aren't they?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I think a big lesson there is there's genuinely caring, which is a necessity. Not everybody genuinely cares. So step one, actually care. Step two, put in some practical pieces in place so that their activities in their role are actually tied into their personal, professional, financial goals. And then also making sure that you're attentive to when do I need to listen and just kind of set the agenda aside. Is that what I'm hearing?
Absolutely.
Awesome. So I love that. And I know for us, for our company, it's made a massive difference because everybody at our team, you can just feel the energy that we're literally, all of us are here to hit our goals together.
Yes.
And that's when you do that individually on a collective level, it becomes the synergy where everybody's excited for each other's goals. Everybody's excited for the company goals. And it makes it so you actually enjoy coming to work. It makes it you enjoy every meeting you're in. You enjoy every person you're with, but also they do too, because this is not common. This is not normal leadership.
Correct.
Normal leadership, you're going to have employees and teammates going, we got to do another meeting. I got to meet with the boss. And you don't want that. That's a draining culture for everybody. And what I love about what you just talked about here, I don't think if people are not paying attention, this right here is what will create a highly energized, fun, exciting culture that also has a high performance aspect to it. Because we're not here just to have ping pong tables and drink beer at work. We don't have ping pong tables. We don't drink beer at work, but we have a lot of fun because we have an energizing culture. And I think that stems from everybody being here to hit their personal and their professional and their financial goals together.
Yes, for sure. And it's knowing people bring their whole self to work, as much as you want to as leaders separate, at work, you just do the work and you get a result and you get the KPIs. People are humans and they're people and they have issues and they have challenges. And how much more can you get out of a person and have them perform even better if you can care about the whole individual? That's so key in leadership. And it's definitely one of my lessons learned.
So powerful. We've talked about this stuff a lot. I just want everybody to know that what you're hearing from all these points is not some regurgitation of books we've read. Sure, we've read a ton of books. Sure, we've done a lot of programs and courses on this stuff. This is real live, our company, our culture. We've seen it work. It works incredibly well. I can't think of any better company I've ever seen or been in as far as culture goes. And so very practical stuff we have here. But we do have one more key take home. So what is that, Cindy? What is number 7?
Yes. Number 7 is, as a leader, you have to know how and when to communicate. So not only is it important to know like how to communicate, you have to know when to communicate. The timing of how you communicate and when you do as a leader is critical. For example, if we're at our morning team meeting, we call it morning momentum, and I have like something that's really frustrating me as a leader that one of my direct reports did, the best place to have that conversation is not to lash out about it on our morning momentum all team meeting, right? I need to know the best place to do that. Potentially that's in a one-on-one just with my direct report. And then also the method or the how that I do it with, right? Getting the best outcome out of communication is not lashing out or shouting or getting upset. Really good leaders exercise what's known as equanimity.
Yes.
Right? It's being that cool, calm confidence, whether you're frustrated, whether you're angry or upset, or you're extremely excited, you maintain that cool, calm confidence, because that's how people also take you more seriously as a leader, right? If you don't have good emotional regulation or emotional control as a leader, when something frustrates you, the ability to not lash out at somebody is going to determine the type of leader you are and the type of leader you're going to become.
Emotional leadership.
Emotional leadership. Yes, absolutely. And that's why we say, right, it's knowing how to communicate, right? Like not raising your voice, like the method that you're going to deliver something serious. If it's something that you have to tell your team to do, it's the method that you deliver it with. But it's also knowing the timing on when to communicate. I've seen this in some companies that I've been in where, you know, the leader comes into a team meeting and will say something and it just throws the whole energy off because it really wasn't the best place to communicate that.
I've done that before.
Lessons learned.
Pima 1.0.
Lessons learned for sure. So it's knowing how to communicate and when to communicate. And one of our biggest takeaways as leaders has been to always exercise equanimity.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you are upset or angry about something, just take a few seconds to calm down and to think about how that communication is going to affect the rest of the team versus I just need to get this off my chest right now because people need to know what I have to say. And that is really critical in good leadership.
And one thing I love to ask is when I'm feeling like saying something, I feel like saying this, I feel like giving my peace of mind, I feel like doing this, is ask what is going to produce the best outcome for everybody in this situation, right? So if I come into a morning meeting and let's say there was a big crash that happened and, you know, that's the big crisis we're in or something, and I come in, well, guys, this is tough. I don't know what we're going to do, right? Like that is going to be timing. That's going to be energy. It could be also if I come into a meeting where I'm like, okay, very clear. We're dealing with a difficult thing right now, but like everybody around here, raise your hands if you've seen Pima go through some difficult stuff and come out winning. Okay, awesome. So we're going to deal with that, but let's start off the day with some wins. Where are we winning? Where are some areas that we're doing good? That can be, and there's other examples, but that can be just an example of like, I'm coming in with the right energy. I'm not hiding something that needs to be, but I'm also coming in with like focusing on the right solution. Now, if there's like an individual person that I'm having to deal with something, I'm not going to bring that up at all in a team meeting.
Absolutely.
And I'm not going to bring it up maybe early in the day, especially if it's a salesperson who has a lot they have to deal with, or if it's like an operations or a client success manager that's about to get on calls with clients. I'm going to wait till the timing is right. Like he has 2 meetings with clients. Oh, great. I'm excited for you. Hey, make sure to do this, coach them, get them in a good state of mind before these meetings. And then afterwards, like, hey, you know, earlier in the day, you did this. Can we have a conversation about it? Make sure you're aware of where they're at in their day as well.
Yes.
You know, you don't give a bad, harsh news to a sales rep right before he has 5 calls in a row. You don't give some bad news to a CSM before he has feedback before he has 2 client calls. You save that for the right timing, and it's always not, what do I feel like saying is one thing, and what's the best thing for me to say or do to produce the best outcome in this situation for the team, for the other person. Because for me to say things when I feel like saying things is a selfish thing for me just to I want to feel good or relieved in this moment right now, versus equanimity would say, it doesn't matter how I feel, what's the best thing to do in this situation for everybody involved, and what produces the best outcome.
So good. Spot on. All right, ladies and gents, those were the 7 keys to level up your leadership. We hope that through some of the lessons that we've learned in our leadership journey, we know it's an ongoing journey. So by no means have we quote unquote arrived, but we do hope that these 7 lessons help you level up your leadership, take it to the next level, and then apply it into your day-to-day as a leader, and then see what the outcome is of the different transformations that you get once you apply it. And so this is the Takeover with Tim and Cindy. If you are watching this on YouTube, make sure to click that subscribe button so you never miss a beat, you never miss an episode whenever we drop a new one. And so from Tim and Cindy, stay winning.